of when you hear that word?
Gasoline.
Gasoline, oil, and maybe your lawnmower, maybe even something more refined like Vaseline or chapstick. You don't normally think of it as being something that you eat. However, you eat petroleum every day and you just don't know it. Today I'm going to be talking about food dyes and chemicals in our food. I'm going to tell you what these dyes are, my own personal story with these food dyes, how they affect the human body, and how we can avoid them. First, I'm going to tell you about my own personal story with food dyes. My son was about 7 or 8 years old and he started getting really bad headaches. Not just a little bit of pain, but where he was in bed, vomiting, unable to have light in his room. Of course, we first thought migraines. However, his doctor ruled out migraines, said no, it was probably just some kind of allergy. So I started eliminating things from his environment that may be causing it. We replaced the carpet in his room. We advised his babysitter the problem. She had a cat, maybe it's a cat. So she had her friend take the cat for a couple weeks, and that didn't help at all. So we started looking at his food. We started taking nitrates out of his foods, like hot dogs, bologna, things like that, because they can cause headaches. That didn't help. I noticed a pattern of when it happened. It usually happened on Sundays when he's at his babysitter's house. Sometimes it'd be other times during the week, but always on Sunday he got a really bad headache. So I'd ask him, well, what did you eat today? And I noticed after about the third Sunday, he had Hawaiian punch every Sunday. And so the next Sunday I asked his babysitter, I said, don't give him any Hawaiian punch, let's see what happens. No headache. Later that day he was eating a red lollipop. Headache starts coming on. I'm like, what is the connection here? So I started researching it online, and I found that food dyes can cause headaches, especially red number 40, red number 3, yellow lake 6, yellow lake 5 are the most common in American food, and they can cause headaches. So we eliminated this from his diet, and his headaches went away. In the meantime, he was also diagnosed with ADD. He wasn't really hyperactive, but he could not focus in school. In fact, he was failing. We spent hours on his homework with him. We had to hire a tutor to help him, and he just barely made it through, even though he's a very smart kid. And he got put on medication for it, which I hated my kid being on medication for ADD. It's not something that I wanted at all, and it helped a little bit. But after we took him off the red dye, his focus improved. He started getting A's and B's in school, and to this day does very well, and hardly ever has a headache. They're a thing of the past. So what is in these food dyes that we're talking about? Red 40 and the 2 yellows are the most common in our food, and they come from petroleum. These petroleum products contain something called benzene. Benzene is a known carcinogen. The CDC says not enough is known about benzene, but yet we allow it in our food. The FDA says that there's not enough evidence to ban it in our food. So in the meantime, we are ingesting all these chemicals into our food, not really knowing how they affect our body. We don't know the long-term effects. We don't know if they build up in our bodies and stay there. Do they just pass through, or do they build up over time and cause problems? This is why it's really a problem that we don't know enough about these. So how do they affect us? Well, in many different ways. Red dye number 3 has been banned in the United States, but only topically. It's no longer allowed in cosmetics or medicine, but it's allowed to be ingested in food. Maraschino cherries, candy, and some baked goods still contain red number 3, but it's been banned in cosmetics. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's been shown to cause thyroid cancer, is the reason why the FDA has banned it, but we're still allowed to eat it. Several other dyes cause tumors in mice, kidney tumors, adrenal tumors, headaches, and of course I've mentioned the hyperactivity in children. These dyes especially affect children. It affects their behavior. There's been numerous studies done, and the Global Center for Healing reports that there have been over 30 studies done around the world, and most European countries have banned food dyes, and yet the United States is the only one that still uses them because the effect in children is so apparent. In Europe, it's either banned or there's a warning label on their food. They have to have one or the other. But in the United States, nothing is said about it. And that seems a little backwards to me that the FDA says we don't have enough evidence to ban it. It should be the other way around. We should not use it until it is 100% conclusive that it is okay for us. And the big problem is the way the FDA does the testing. The FDA, when they have a serving of food dye, they use 26 milligrams of food dye as one serving. However, did you know 1 cup of cherry Kool-Aid has 50 milligrams? 2 tablespoons of frosting, like a canned chocolate frosting, just 2 tablespoons has 41.8. So imagine a child at a birthday party drinking Kool-Aid, eating cake with frosting, how much of this they're getting, in addition to the sugar. An Australian study, according to the Center for Science for Public Interest, which is an advocacy group for health, they said the Australians did a study with 100 different families. The 100 families took food dyes out of their diets, and 2 months later reported that in 75 of those families, the behavioral activity in their children had greatly improved. And it's some things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like I said, the Kool-Aid, but it's also in mac and cheese. You see yellow 5 and yellow 6. Of course, stuff like this, which we all know isn't really healthy anyway. What about Nutri-Grain bars? I used to give these to my kids as a last-minute breakfast item, but they contain food dye. Of course, chips, food dye, pudding. Look at this, strawberries and light syrup. Now, who would think a strawberry would need food dye? But apparently it does. So we eat it when we don't even realize it. And it's especially harmful to children in disadvantaged situations, because I know at my kids' school, they send backpacks home with some of the kids who may not get food over the weekend. And it's these kinds of things that go home with them. So they're already at a disadvantage because of their socioeconomic situation, but then they're getting these kinds of foods, which I guess is better than starving, but it's creating problems at school for them that they don't already need. So how can we avoid these dyes in our food? By eating more natural, less processed foods. My family hasn't eaten processed foods in almost 2 years. We eat fruits, vegetables, meats, and a little bit of dairy, but nothing with dye. And our health has improved dramatically. We've all lost weight. My kids are behaving better than ever. So it's really made a difference in our life. Another thing you can do is watch where you shop. I shop at Aldi, which is a European store. And I was looking around my pantry looking for foods to bring in. I didn't have anything with food dye in it because they use all natural food dyes, such as turmeric, beet juice, things like that. They don't use the chemical dyes. So by shopping at a place like that, you can really eliminate some of those chemicals from your food. Also, it may help to just, hit the companies in their pocketbook. We can all join together. The big companies such as Nestle, General Mills, they're not going to reduce their profits for health unless we really make an impact and demand it. So by not buying these products and maybe writing letters to the companies that we want natural foods, maybe they will rid our food of some of these dyes. So the next time you pick up something such as a Nutri-Grain bar, I hope you'll be a little more cognizant to read the label, think about what you're putting in your body, and maybe you'll enjoy better health in the future.